Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying!
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. It's Tuesday. The boys are back in town. We are here to discuss the Chelsea game, all the stuff that came out of it, all the good stuff. As always, if this is the first time on the Cannon the Cannon Podcast is what it's called. For you, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms. Follow Rohan Jivan at Rohan Jivan AFC on X. Follow George V_AFC on X, and follow me at Elon Musk. Hello, everyone. We are here. I'm here with Rohan.
Hey,
I'm here with George.
Hello, good sir. The intonation on that is always just strange to me.
Rohan, you were late. Why were you late?
I was at the gym. I'll tell you what. I'm getting dench, mate. I'm telling you. Well, I looked at myself today when I was I had a cheeky pull day. Bit of biceps, bit of back. And I'll tell you what, I'm looking good, I think, he says.
There's a joke in cheeky pull day.
I think there's quite a few jokes in what Rohan just said. We might not be able to cover them. We did cover some dressing room etiquette in the pre-match chat, but we won't go there with everyone listening. We're here to discuss the Chelsea game, to look forward to the Brentford game at the end. I was going to say in a big week, but at the end of a big week for Arsenal, beating Spurs in North London derby, spanking Bayern Munich, and then drawing is what it feels like to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I said this yesterday to Rohan to kick us off, to George, that it's quite exciting to have a main podcast, Rohan, where we have something to discuss other than we were brilliant. Oh my God, aren't we brilliant? Just general thoughts today. We're sort of 24 hours later. How were you at full time? I was quite annoyed, but should I have been? I don't know.
I was gutted for like an hour, and then I was over it. And that's not usual. Like when Arsenal drop points, it does hit me. Like when we dropped points against Sunderland, it hit me because I felt the team didn't deserve to draw that game. I felt it was very much one of our best performances in the context of at half-time, we are behind. Like the response was brilliant. And that's where I felt gutted in that game. In this game, I felt gutted because of the context. And to caveat, I've not watched the game back. I've not watched the Bayern game back actually yet, so I'm behind on my rewatches, right? So this is just my general raw feelings from yesterday. For me, it felt gutting because of the context of Chelsea being down to 10 men in a half in which I thought Chelsea looked really good and thought, yeah, we're struggling here. And it felt like to me, my biggest worry going into this game was the energy levels. Would we be able to replicate another big performance in another high-octane game on the back of two high-octane clashes in which we are then also trying to withstand the injuries that we are currently enduring? And then obviously you had the Saliba news that came out a day before kickoff. That was my worry, and I felt that worry began to exist more and more as the game went on. I thought, yeah, this team looks a bit gassed. But overall, like when I reflected on it, I know this is like the classic, you know, if you had a look at the week and you reflected on each game, if you had 7 out of 9, everyone would have absolutely taken it. And I don't always like that point of view, but I do sit with that point of view, given the whole context of where we are and the injuries that we've endured, and the fact that before this week, we had a lead of 4 points on second place. At the end of this week, we have a lead of 5 points.
Progress.
Second place. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I'm weighing up all these things, and yeah, like we can talk about the game for sure, which we will. But like I'm feeling good. Like I didn't wake up today feeling like sad or annoyed by it. I'm feeling like we're in a good position. So.
George, I'm going to say something that is entirely my own opinion and definitely not what you said on the instant reaction. I think in the context of the game, annoyance. In the context of the season, completely fine. And I think that is really how I feel. I'm going to put a sort of rather bizarre stat to you as a jumping off point here. We haven't actually dropped points other than the Liverpool game, having been ahead. If you think about it, so we clawed the Man City game back, we clawed the Sunderland game back, we clawed the Chelsea game back. So maybe there is a bit of a pattern there. I'd be curious on your sort of, you know, what's stopping us sort of getting over lines potentially. I don't want to pull too much of a narrative considering how good we've been. But yeah, rather than repeating your own opinions back to you, I'll ask you how you're feeling after yesterday.
Similar to the prelude that you said, essentially. It's odd because I felt as though every time I try to reflect on this game and I'm fair on just the game, I actually get more annoyed. And then when I have to sit there and take a bird's eye view to it, I'm not annoyed. And it has more to do with what I have said, where I feel that we lose this title because of us, fundamentally. So when I look around us and I look at the faults in comparison to other people and the context of the game and the difficulty of the match, and by the way, the context of how many away grounds that we've been to already, how much we've already played, how much we've already successfly completed.
Yes, sorry to cut you, because I just want to give some context to that, because I think that is it's something we stumbled on this interaction that I think is worth saying. In terms of our away fixtures, our remaining away fixtures, this is in chronological order in 25-26. We've got Villa away. Then it's Everton, Bournemouth, Forest, Leeds, Brentford, Spurs, okay, Brighton, Wolves, then City, West Ham, then Palace. That, to me, as a set of away fixtures, is relatively encouraging.
Incredibly encouraging. So when you look at just, not only have we been able to garner this amount of points, a 5-point lead at December 1st with major injuries, by the way, with people coming back, having gone away to St. James Park, basically leaving, in my opinion, you've got Villa, you've got the Etihad, you've got Spurs, which will always be a trouble, and I think Palace is a very difficult game given their form, and Oliver Glasner, who I really rate quite well. To me, that's 4 very tough away grounds, but respectfully, the rest are quite what you would expect to win. And in fact, if we didn't, we'd be sitting here on the podcast saying that's the reason we lost the title. But broadly speaking, we have got through all of the difficult away game fixtures. And so, yes, so when I kind of step back, I go, it's really not that bad, quite at all. I would have wanted to, because I think these big clashes, they give you a sense of chest that you don't get even in the preceding 8 that we've won. Like when you look at that run, everybody thought the mid-block challenge. I mean, I went big on that on the podcast, but every fan would be like, no, I expect to win those. And you look at your records against those major teams as really your defining factor if you're good or not. And it's because of reactions of Big Six fan bases that actually get you more aggrieved, in my opinion, than anything else. But that's a long-winded way of saying, broadly, it's completely fine. In fact, very good. We're in a very good position right now. But on the game, I must say, and we'll get into the nitty gritty, there were stuff I didn't like. And this probably in annoyance ranked up there for me, second to Man United. Like Chelsea and United were the 2 games I walked away from saying, I'm annoyed at my team. I'm not disappointed in the result. I don't think there's a catastrophe going, but I sat there thinking, that's a performance I'm not proud of because I know what this team can do. And I do maintain this. That team we put out, guys, I am convinced could have convincingly won the game, in my opinion. I think we definitely got hurt by injuries, but I still think the stuff we did was so poor and unlike us. And I'll get into it on like the specifics first half and second half.
Rohan, let's start with you on the game. My feeling really hasn't changed about the first half. Let's deal with the first half now. I think Chelsea came with a game plan. And that was to disrupt, and that was to use their crowd, and that was to get him. Like, the archetype of this is Cucurella's first challenge on Saka. Yeah. He comes inside, and he's not even interested in the tackle. He is interested in pulling the man down and leaving a marker. And you know exactly what. Set the tone. Get in there. You know exactly what Maresca said in the dressing room. You know what they've all been saying to each other. And then you see the reactions of, for example, Noni and Enzo and Cucurella to Noni Madueke at one point, laughing in his face and stuff like that. Cole Palmer geeing the crowd up to sort of get in Madueke's face. I don't love that. If I think there's a way of doing that which isn't, which is physical and aggressive and at it without tipping over a line. And they did. They tipped over a line with Caicedo with that challenge, and they paid the price for it. We'll come on to the second half where we didn't then punish them paying the price for what was going over the edge. But on the first half, I just really felt, and I don't feel any different than yesterday, I don't know how, when the game is that stop-start, how can I talk about rhythm? How can I talk about tempo? How can I talk about much about the sort of in-possession stuff when that's the game state?
Yeah. It reminded me a bit of, do you remember... It was the season Leicester won the league in 2015-16. And Chelsea played Spurs.
Battle of the Bridge.
Battle of the Bridge, 2-2, I think it was. They came back from 2 goals with Hazard. It reminded me a lot of that. That, to be fair, that was way worse. that was a horrible game in terms of like the challenges that were in it. But yeah, it was already stop-start. I do want to give Chelsea a lot of credit though. Personally, I think they played very well though. Like I think their game plan, and again, I do need to watch it back because I don't know the specifics. I have like initial feelings on things, but I think he set them up brilliantly. I think he's a really good manager as well, Maresca. I don't like how he is at times in press conferences in terms of throwing players under the bus, but maybe that's just his type of way of managing players and how he sees the game in that lens. But they came with a plan, and he's very much of the ideology of Pep. You know, positional play, a lot of ways to try and seek advantages across the pitch. It's all the stuff that you see what we try to do as well, although there are more nuances to it. But yeah, like in terms of the nastier side to it, there were periods in which they went over the top. You know, like I think the Caicedo challenge is ridiculous because not just the challenge, but his reaction after that to fake that he's injured in that moment. I think that's what really tipped me over.
That's the worst.
Yeah, in the second half, you know, when we're frustrated as fans, and we'll get into second half where the game becomes really stop-start. That was always going to happen at some stage if you don't manage it correctly. And Chelsea were doing very much what we would do if we went down to 10 men in that second half. If we're trying to control the atmosphere and to slow the game down. So I've got no qualms with that. I do have qualms with some of the challenges that were there in the first half for sure of Caicedo and the reaction there. But in terms of like what I felt in the performance. And we do need to caveat it with that they are 2 players who have not played with each other, and it looked like they've not played with each other. I thought Hincapié and Mosquera were a big reason why we couldn't control the game, personally. I felt like individually they're superb players, but you could just tell they were a fresh partnership. And this is where the things that Saliba and Gabriel do, you know, like we speak about it a lot where what they do consistently, game in, game out, a lot of the small-sided things are not considered because we treat it as normality, when in fact, those small-sided things are exactly what we missed in a lot of that first half, in terms of being able to squeeze as a unit, in terms of being able to get there early. Mosquera and Hincapié didn't offer us that. And I thought both of them looked quite nervous on the ball as well, which is totally acceptable, right? And this is where I really want to caveat the fact that it is their second game together. The first was against Brighton, which I actually thought they did really well as a pairing. But I felt that the ripple effect that they created amongst others led to a game in which we couldn't really control. And actually, again, I'll watch it back, even in our press, I've spoken many times in the past about, you know, Declan Rice, and there was that interview that he from the coaches that The Athletic did about an analyst, a Premier League coach, saying Declan Rice can stand in between 2 players to give you an advantage in other places because you are underloading him. You are saying, Declan Rice, you're 2v1, but I back you to still win the ball in that space. But pressing is a game of distances. What Chelsea did is they made the distance really big between Caicedo and James, so that Rice, even with his athletic capability, can't cover both of them. And the reason why I felt we gave Rice that role, which is very prevalent in 23-24, because the game was a little bit different. Distances were a little bit closer when we're pressing the opposition, so Rice could cover it. But now teams are staggering a lot more, the distances are bigger, and that meant that Chelsea could play through us quite easily in many moments in that first half. And I felt we did that because we wanted to protect Hincapié and Mosquera at the back with João Pedro. We didn't want to go completely 1v1 on all occasions, whereas I felt if we had Saliba or Gabriel, one of them, it would have been a little bit different on that front. I know that's quite hot. Maybe that could seem quite harsh, but that's what I felt with it, with the 2 as a pairing. I didn't think that they were in lock with each other. That's my feeling. So
I think I see it differently.
Yeah.
I too noticed the shape was different. I put some stuff out and I was sort of saying this shape is a much more expanded out of possession. This is not our usual 4-4-2 in terms of the distances. It was, you know, same numerically, but the distances were much different. Yeah. But it was also different between the midfielders and the forwards, which is why I then don't know whether it was fully to protect Mosquera. Basically, I'm not saying I know either way.
That's what I don't.
I don't know.
That's my feeling of it. That's my feeling from yesterday.
So the other option is that it was more of a conscious choice from us, and it was to try and stretch them out themselves, because to me, I don't look at that group of midfielders and I don't look at that group of guys behind the ball for Chelsea and think they're brilliant at finding their man inside. Chalobah off his weak foot, trying to find players inside. I think there's probably lots of balls you could pick up with those distances stretched. I could probably make an argument for either way. Ultimately, we're not going to know. I think what I will say is individually, I thought Mosquera and Nkapie were quite good. We spoke about a little bit on the instant reaction about the build-up stuff. I thought in their individual actions. But you are right in the sense that we missed the best centre-back pairing in world football. So however we spin it, whether it was our fault, their fault, whose fault, whatever, Arsenal lacked the best centre-back pairing in football. And George, as we sort of turn to what we did wrong, I do want to mention that because, you know, we've come to this sort of point, probably on even just on our podcast, of like, well, there's no excuses this season. And it's like occasionally, I think if you're away at the second, like in terms of if we're going to build an excuse-o-meter, I agree it should be higher this season. But I think away after a tough week at Stamford Bridge without Saliba and Gabriel, I'm like willing to dip into it. Do you know what I mean? Just
to really quickly add on to that, I'm so glad you brought this up because I said many times where like we went into the summer with contingency in mind to be able to combat and withstand injuries, which were doing really well. And even when the Gabriel injury came up, we did the live podcast on the Monday, and then we also did TCP live and we discussed it. And I sat there and said, we have players there to come in and to mitigate that impact. But that's one of the two. You lose both of them, that is so difficult. I don't care. Like, you can't, it's the same, it's like, it's a partnership, isn't it? It's like, if I've got one of them, I feel calm because I've got one who's been there, done it, the experience. You got two of them out, then it's a different ball game.
Putting it this way, if 24-25 doesn't happen and we just somehow get that, I mean, we didn't barely do anything in the summer of 24 anyway, so we basically get the same squad and this happens there. Like if 23-24 and you just skip a year, basically you have the same squad, I think we're all talking about Gabriel and Saliba. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I struggle with this because I did see it slightly differently as far as the problem. But I think we're all saying that we had an issue progressing through the center of the pitch a little bit more than we often did. And, you know, I think getting the ball into the final third was something that we have been a lot more successful at in recent games, and we weren't here. So you can see the problem in a couple ways. For me, really simple. I thought, why the hell is the ball in the air so much? Just generally speaking. So yes, it was stop-start. But why are we not playing more on the floor? We have seen countless times this season that the rotations at Buildup have been so phenomenal, and we have an ability to. And then I look at it and I'm trying to reflect and say, okay, how many yellow cards did Anthony Taylor give out in that first 30 minutes as far as both teams go? And you're looking at what? Ricardo Calafiori, you're looking at Zubamendi quite early. Both center backs got a yellow card, if I'm correct.
4 for us and 1 for them, I believe.
Okay, so, and of those, in the back 6, 4 got yellow cards immediately. Bang. So I'm trying to think to myself, okay, if I'm asking them for more build-up, but I've got early yellow cards, there's going to be a conservative nature to it. Now, there's 2 ways to approach that with really horseshoe safe passing, or the one that we chose, which was a little bit of hoofball that I didn't love. And I do feel, for me, especially, I watched it back and I thought that David Raya was really early with his long passes. I felt that Zubamendi, after the yellow card, hit a bit. It was one of his more poor games, I would say, in an Arsenal shirt. And after the yellow card, I just felt like he wasn't showing as often as he would. So I actually agree with Rohan in terms of I don't think Mosquera and Nkapie are as progressive as Gabriel and Saliba. But if I'm being honest, I didn't expect them to be. There was going to be a 10-15% progression drop because they're not the same level players. Yeah. What I was surprised with was our solutions. The David Raya, who can step up and play into a press and into midfield. The Zubamendi dropping in between the two, being able to dictate a bit more, put his foot on the ball. Declan Rice coming in a bit more. Solutions in the squad where they recognize this isn't Gabriel Saliba. We need to help out. That I didn't expect to be as poor. And there's one more person in Mikel Merino that I thought had a really difficult time controlling the ball between the boxes in this match, and especially in the first half where he would take the touch, and then the next touch out of him was really, really poor. So, you know, the symptom was let's go long because we can't deal with it. And then when we did go long, we didn't have an effective target and the ball just kept coming back at us. So from my perspective, it ultimately led to the symptom of, yes, Mascara and, Hincapié not progressing as much as we normally expect our center backs to go with. But Zubamendi, Raya, not doing what we needed to do. Mikel Merino, that whole middle of the pitch had a bad game. And Eze was a ghost, if we're being really honest, in that first half. And that was because the ball just kept going over him and back and over and back. And there was no central progression in this match. Yeah. So that was, for me, the biggest issue when I look back at the Chelsea. And I thought, I really want to ask myself this question. What is Ben White's fitness? When we have a match like this and we're looking for a center back to put a little bit more personality on the ball, I remember what Ben White did. And I'm asking myself, is it a simple amount of just minutes under the belt with Mascara? Is there a fitness concern? Question mark, potentially. But if you want to solve the personality on the ball with a center back progression and someone who likes to dribble and bait somebody to engage a press, Ben White's our next best after Saliba, Gabriel in terms of that. Maybe Calafiori if you want to make an argument's sake, but I still say Ben is more composed in those senses. So, I mean, I could fix it that way, but I personally feel it was the Martin Zubamendi and it was the Mikel Merino effect more to me than the center backs being a little bit more progressive, which I think both helped. So that's kind of my takeaway from it.
I hear that. I think Merino especially, he loves an underhit pass. He really does. He underhits a lot of his passes, and it is because he often receives it high up. Once we're up the pitch, I love it because he's picking out runners in behind. But if we're trying to get up the pitch, it's really frustrating. He really underhits his passes a lot of the time. Zubamendi got the earliest yellow card for an Arsenal player in a Premier League fixture since 2017. And I think that probably did affect his afternoon because he could feel what type of game that was. I agree in terms of Eze, but he just wasn't in the game. Saka, I think it's hard to blame Saka because he was probably the most threatening player, but I think especially in the second half, did he waste certain moments? But equally, he was the only player providing any threat, so it's hard to sort of go too hard on him. Yeah, it was just a tough one. Coming to the second half, Rohan, I think that's where I start to get more frustrated at us.
Yeah.
And our response and not putting Chelsea to the sword with 10 men. I think George mentioned it there, and I mentioned it on the instant reaction. The personality on the ball was missing, and someone had a go at me for digging out Miles Lewis-Skelly. Lewis-Skelly has signed a new contract, and he's a part of Arsenal's first team. He is a part of this, but so is everyone. It was Lewis-Skelly, but it was a lot of players. So I thought weren't showing me what I know they can show me. Declan Rice included, Mikel Merino included, Mosquera and Hincapié at that point with 10 men with Rice sitting deeper going, please step forward, give me something on the ball. Eze, Madueke, probably Saka, I could look at everyone and say you're not giving me enough. Equally, I felt in the second half there was a structural issue too. I wanted our passers and our guys who could retain the ball and keep it in the final third on as soon as possible. And I don't think we did that enough. So I'm frustrated with the lack of personality, but I don't think we spent enough time in the final third to some degree to show it. So it was a really tough one. And I think second half, I do look much more towards us. But curious on your take.
Yeah, I think the second half performance was really frustrating because I've walked out of that game feeling there was only one team that deserved to win that game of football, and it wasn't Arsenal.
Which you can't say about us very often. You really can't.
Yeah, exactly. And in the situation, and it's not a cop-out, but maybe there's also an element of the fact that we don't have much experience playing against a team that's gone down to 10 men for that long as well. There could be something there, although against Man United in the Cup, they went down to 10 men in the second half, but there could be something there. It could be fatigue as well. I think fatigue certainly played a part in terms of some of our decision-making. The biggest frustration that I had, and George kind of just touched on it, and I tweeted about it, where horseshoe football is frowned upon, right? When in association with Arsenal, constantly shifting it from side to side, nothing through the middle. I thought
used a bit of it.
I thought that was exactly what we needed. I felt that we just needed to allow players to build confidence, especially Hincapié and Mosquera for me at the back. Move the ball side to side. It's safe passing. Chelsea are not, when you get them into their own half, they're not going to jump out quickly because they're a man down. So when you're in that situation, I felt that we were forcing it too much. I really did. And then when you force it too much, they win the ball back. Immediately, you know what's going to happen then? They're going to go long. Then it becomes the loose ball game again. It's all about aerial duels, second balls, and then throw-ins in which Chelsea are winning a lot of. And that's where you get frustrated because it stops the rhythm of the game. Then you got players going down with injuries, fake injuries and whatnot. That's just part and parcel of what happens in that sort of context for the team that's down to 10 men. I personally felt that was the biggest frustration for me. You know, like I went into that second half thinking, okay, this is an Odegaard game. He's got to come on because he is someone in which I know when Odegaard's on the pitch and we've got a team camped in the final third and he's got a lot of touches on the ball, I know we're cooking. We're in control of the game. I didn't feel like, even when he came on, and maybe this could be a fitness thing as well, I didn't feel there was anything there from Odegaard as well. I'm not singling him out, but I just felt there was nothing from a lot of players in that half in which just needed to do the simple passing, move them side to side. It might not look threatening. They might look quite comfortable, but I felt that would have given us a little bit more of a foothold in the game to control it. And then you can start picking your moments, start trying to play the killer passes. Saka, for example, is a really good example where Cucurella didn't get close to Saka at all in this game. The only times he got close to him was when he fouled him. He fouled him about 4 times in the first half. And in the second half, he gets beaten for the build-up to the Mikel Merino goal. What was so annoying about Saka is his decision-making in his final action. That is so unusual from him. Shots in situations where, why are you shooting from there? Like, you're better than that. You know, and that is just, there was just so much frustration with it. And the worry I had is I wanted the game to end at one point. I thought, I don't feel comfortable that we're going to even see this out for a draw at one stage because I felt Chelsea had some really promising moments in transition which we weren't able to control. It was just really frustrating. And maybe that's why I kind of feel a little bit good today because of the context of, well, we didn't lose. You know? So, yeah.
George, we spoke about the second half on the instant reactions. If people want to hear that, they can go listen to that. I want to sort of slightly change gear. We saw at the very end a moment very reminiscent of the exact same fixture last season away at Stamford Bridge, where Trossard takes it off Havertz's foot, Timber takes it off Gyökeres's head. We just as easily could be sat here talking about. I don't think any of us would have said masterclass because we all. I like to think we try and analyse properly, but I think we could be sat here saying, look, we've gone away to the second place team. We're 57 points clear, wherever we be in the 1st of December, and you know, and we're absolutely cooking, and we found a way to win. You know what I mean? And that would be the analysis. I think maybe the concern in this game, and I'm curious on your take on this, was that it didn't feel like we were even close to doing that, finding a way to win, which hasn't felt like Arsenal. It feels like we've sort of, if you could go back and look at certain games, it's almost like we're right on the precipice of winning and it doesn't quite happen. I never felt we were right on the precipice of winning in that game. If I was sort of 60 minutes, if you'd said to me, would you take a draw here? I'd go, absolutely. That's my only real concern. You know, really, sort of in the sort of the context of the season outside of the game, I've got concerns in the game, but in that meta, that was my only real concern, though.
The game is an outlier for so many people, and it's kind of, that's the story of it, isn't it? You know, I look at Zubamendi. How many times did he get in the final third to offer some dangerous situations? We then took off, for me, which I did say on the instant reaction, I thought was a mistake when taking off Eze, when ultimately a 10-man game, you're going to pen them in and, as we say, hopefully try to push for a winner, right? Hopefully dominate possession. That would have been the goal, but then you're taking off one of the best players in the squad who is complete and clinical at cutbacks and at those moments that you're going to try to manufacture anyways. So that was a confusing one for me. And it's tough for me to really analyze much more because when you guys say that Bukayo Saka didn't make the right decision in the final third, I go, are you okay? That's a superpower. And you know, when he's not doing that, then I look to Miles Lewis-Skelly and I say, you're telling me he's not the most progressive passer from deep in that back line? What are you talking about? Then I isolate Martin Odegaard and you're telling me he also is somebody that isn't recycling and making the use of his higher touches? What are you talking about? Like, I have just named 3 or 4 players that are just, you know, their bread and butter they couldn't do. Now,
Timber in the air.
Timber,
by the way.
No. There you go.
Yeah.
And so it became a matter of just 1 to 11 became a case of your superpower you're not doing. When it's so collective and so consistent that so many players are doing that, as opposed to just one player, I look at team chemistry more than I do a specific issue or specific tactic, because then I think the team suffered quite a bit. And look, we've spoken a bit about it. My only big frustration is I don't believe Chelsea defend the wide space as well, particularly the fullback to the center back channel. They don't tend to defend that well enough. I don't think we did well enough to feed balls into that channel enough. Saka got a chance before the header to Timber. Prior to that, the actual Timber chance comes because of the threaded ball in which Akapie runs onto, with a beautiful cutback, by the way. And you see just a moment of Akapie's delivery in the final third that will be so special. But it's one of those things where I was crying for that pregame that we would kill Chelsea that way. Every time we did kill them, but we just didn't manufacture those chances well enough. So that's a little bit on us. I don't know if that's a whole individual case, but that is just a general team criticism in the second half, and especially against 10 men. We played their game. It just really simply, not to get too casual, we let Chelsea dictate the terms of the match when we simply should have, and even more so at 10 men.
Rohan, you obviously have something to say. So just say it, mate.
I was going to say, you didn't agree with what I was saying.
I've dropped my glasses.
Beginning to sort of it's over, mate. No analysis for you. When Rohan puts on the glasses, it's over.
I've seen those comments.
It's over for you. Let's begin to talk maybe just some other things to start to zoom out a little bit. 2 points I want to come to here, Rohan. One is fitness and one is the set pieces. Do you think that there's any sort of fitness-related things we could have done better? Could we have rotated more? I feel like these are always just like, realistically, if we'd won the game, no one's talking about it. But, a couple of people sort of commented it. Second thing is the defensive set pieces. And obviously Chelsea scored from a goal from a set piece and also exploiting the front post, which has been a concern. I think you and I certainly, I can't remember if Georgia said it, but you probably have credited on TCP Live the use of Gyökeres at the front post, who's been brilliant so far for us this season. They spotted it. They exploited it. Havertz wasn't there. Gyökeres wasn't there. They exploited that front post. We're not amazing defensively at defending corners. And there was some data that came out from the Athletic at the end of last season that was sort of mid-table for defending set pieces. I'd need to look up now. So yeah, there's sort of two more meta points in terms of fitness and those corners. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think so. It was Opta Analyst from last season. We'd conceded the set piece goals conceded. Arsenal were fifth. Not good.
As in fifth most.
Fifth most goals conceded. Yeah. And like the data was also interpreted in different ways in terms of like, Arsenal's highest percentage of goals conceded come from set pieces. That's a little bit misleading because like we don't concede many goals at all anyway. But when you look at the raw numbers, we concede a lot of goals from set pieces. And actually, I don't just think this is... And again, I don't know enough about corners. So I need to read up on it a bit more. But I don't think it's just solely a Gabriel or Havertz or Gyökeres thing where if they're in the team, we don't concede from corners. We still do concede from corners. It happened last season. It happened the season before as well. I remember Bournemouth got a really poor... Their winner at the Emirates last season was a really poor one that we conceded. A long throw-in as well in that game. So yeah, I think that front post...
From Semenyo?
Yeah, from Semenyo, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
George and I looked at it and scouted. I was like, Semenyo's got a long throw.
Semenyo long
Get
throw.
him in.
It was Huijsen, didn't he? And he scored the header. But it's that front post area. And they obviously targeted it because every single corner that they took, they targeted the front post. And we weren't alert to it. And that was my frustration. I don't know about you guys, but I get anxious when teams get corners against us because I feel like we could get found out here. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, as much as we praise the set pieces in the attacking sense, and rightly so, one of the best teams in Premier League history to be taking corners. Like that's just factual. But in terms of defending them, I've always felt that there's something there. And maybe there could be something to do with systematically, could be due to players not having the most optimum roles within that structure. I don't know. I need to read up on it. But yeah, it's certainly a concern for me. And in terms of the fitness, I mean, it's one of those ones where I don't look too much into it because we made a few changes against Bayern Munich. I think a lot of Arsenal fans would say like the priority should be the Premier League. So just throw away the Bayern Munich game because it doesn't matter. I don't sit in that camp because it's a massive game against a team in which you can really put a statement out and also cement yourself even more in the Champions League group stages, in which in the latter games, the last 3 or so games we can really rotate heavily as well. So yeah, I don't sit much in terms of the rotation argument, but the set pieces, that is a concern. And that was actually my biggest concern with, outside of the general partnership that Saliba and Gabriel have as a duo, the cooperative superiority that they give, it's the defending corners I was more worried about in the absence of Gabriel in general to mitigate it. But in terms of scoring goals and set pieces, we know he's colossus at that. But I felt this team has more to their arsenal.
So to speak. Yeah, George. Sort of following on from that, George. Like, in terms of the points we have dropped so far this season, and this Arsenal team just in general, what do you see as, if you can get at Arsenal, the places to do it? Because I think we've sort of come to this thing of like, the kings of everything and we're brilliant across all the phases. I do, and I'm not sort of rewriting history here, but I do think so far this season we are beginning to see a couple of patterns in terms of if you want to rattle us, if you want to sort of get into us a little bit. I'm looking at the Newcastle game, which was very close. I'm looking at the Chelsea game. I'm looking at the Sunderland game. The City game felt like a bit of an outlier to me, to be honest. But there is some parallels in those 3 games. I'm curious on if you were an opposition analyst, what are you looking at?
I would leave one on us and do it constantly. Run with them for 90 minutes. Make sure that your distances are quite tight. But really, commit men forward. Step onto them and get into their face and ask them to play through you. That's probably the best way to kind of disrupt an Arsenal team, broadly speaking. I mean, Newcastle have that is really their only game plan against us. And so is the Chelsea, the Sunderland. When you're talking about it, they're just physical teams that have dared to run with us. And the simple fact of the matter, this isn't me just being cocky, is 95% of teams can't run with this Arsenal team. If you can, you'll get a positive result if you're brave enough to. And you actually, I think it's a little bit more than just leaving one on us as well, I must say. I think that if you've got people with horizontal agility to snap out and in very well, they tend to do really, really well against us. So I look at, the Joe Linton aspect in midfield. It's not just that he leaves someone on. He is able to get out to the wing, come back into play very quickly. If you have 2 midfielders in your team that are able to do that, so you look at your Caicedos, you look at Reece James, by the way, athletic profiles that have those big distances between them, but are able to run out to the wings and then snap back into play, the horizontal distance, if they're able to cover that really well, then they end up being quite successful against us. By the way, look at Sunderland. Saka and Siddiqui, is that his name? Little budget Conte, I like to call it. Those are 2 midfielders that are, again, able to snap out wide and come back into play again. So to me, I've noticed that kind of a pattern. If you've got 2 central midfielders that are quite athletic, able to go out wide and in, make those runs constantly, sprints in and out for 90 minutes, Arsenal may be able to struggle with that. However, there's one last point I did want to do. You guys mentioned a lot about defensive set pieces. Guys, Chelsea are really bad defending set pieces as well. I was on a preview, and one of the fears that a Chelsea fan had themselves was the set piece thing, but the other way. They were fearful with our prowess and their ability to defend set pieces. And I really do think that was one of the biggest misses. Like Gabriel, when we're talking about it, I don't tend to go into this analysis because we have so many other targets with it and we're so brilliant broadly. But in a big game, Gabriel thrives. In fact, I don't know if it was Chelsea who was the one that he did that superb athletic one where he changes directions in the air previously. But I think your big players love a big goal. And we didn't carry the same set piece threat in this match. I'd say broadly. And the few times we did, Mikel Merino had options and it was successful. He just didn't get it on target. But if he had, we could be talking about a different story.
Chelsea have considered the second most amount of XG from set pieces, according to Opta analysts, but weirdly have considered the same amount of goals from set pieces as we have. Rohan, I think the stuff George outlines is accurate. I think the set pieces is a point. I think, ultimately facing us without Gabriel or Saliba is probably quite useful. Is there anything else that you think? Yeah, if I was an opposition analyst, I think I'd look at that.
No, just to add on that, I think said it many times where we went to St James's Park, we won really, we were a great performance, but I can't sit here and tell you if we went to St James's Park 10 more times, we're winning, more than 6. Because it's a tough game. It's a game. It's funny because a lot of teams, they don't have the capacity to do so as well. But the mindset for many teams is to kind of sit off on Arsenal, and that is the best way to get a result. We will win. We will win in that context. Mm-hmm. If you believe that you can be the protagonists out of possession when we're at goal kicks, we're inside our own half, and you can press us, you believe and you back yourself to be risky in that regard, you can have some joy, potentially. Not to say it's a guarantee, but there's a potential chance, especially when you are in front of your home crowd. When you're in front of your home crowd and you're not playing as a protagonist, then we are in our element, So I do believe that the Newcastles, the Bayern Munichs as well, we were fantastic against Bayern Munich, but I can't sit here and tell you now we've cracked the Bayern Munich code. We haven't. We played really well. And Chelsea as well, physically, they were able to match us. Now, the point that you made about Saliba and Gabriel, I think this is probably the first main podcast in which we put a bit more emphasis on the injuries. And I think it's rightly so. Because you go into that game on top of the jaded legs, no Saliba, no Gabriel, not a fit and firing Odegaard. Martinelli and Madueke just came back recently. No Gyökeres fit and available. No Havertz. Come on.
No Trossard in this form. No
Trossard in form as well. I think that needs to be mentioned. Other games this season, for example, Liverpool way in which we had a few injuries, and it could easily have been worth noting there. I just felt that we had more to us then, especially with the freshness to the team, to not use that as an excuse for. But I do sit in the camp of yesterday. I felt like if we were a bit more fresher, I think this game could have been a lot more differently, because I don't believe that Mikel was tactically inept in this game. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah. I want to talk about an individual, and I want to caveat massively. A, because it's me, just generally a lot of caveat
so many times. I've said it so many times.
B, because I am in no way wanting to open up some huge can of worms. This is sort of a big issue or whatever. This is really, really isn't. I've seen a lot of criticism of Bukayo Saka in terms of maybe the output, in terms of his performance against Chelsea, large proportions of which I don't agree with. I think you could look at the injury, obviously, that he sustained. He was obviously out of the Liverpool game, the Forest game. He's had his struggles this season. Obviously, he had a big injury last season. I think you can look back to that and the fitness stuff. But look, if I'm going brass tacks and I'm trying to understand where these people are coming from, it's 17 appearances and 8 GA, which for Bukayo Saka's high standards, maybe isn't exactly the levels that we're expecting of him. Again, there's so much to caveat. I don't particularly agree with a lot of the criticism, but I think it is worth talking about because it is happening. George, where do you stand on it? Do you take any heed of it? Do you think there's any truth in it? Where are you at with Saka at the minute? Just to give you my position, I would like a bit more output. I think, to be honest, of course, I think he's feeling his way back into this team. I think I think the dynamics of the team have changed on the left-hand side, and he's sort of getting to grips with how maybe he's not less needed, but we're not running the entire game model through him as much, which is a different thing. And also, players can just go through a little bit of a period where they're not as hot. I'm sure at the end of the season, we're going to be sat there looking at an incredible Bukayo Saka season and many, many moments. I just think it's probably the point of the season. But is there any validity to this?
I'm going to do a little of a small rant in a sense, but can you maybe look this up for me so that I can base this from a factual information? From October 1st, roughly, how many goals and assists has he had in these last 2 months, which is when he's come back from injury? And I think when you look at the Saka, I did want to touch on a brilliant point that you made. If we're basing our attacks, broadly speaking, that they had 75% to 80% down the right-hand side, and we even changed that 10%, Saka is seeing less of the ball. So you would expect, a 20, 30% drop in his goals and assists. But I would hazard a guess that since he's been back from injury, he's actually had more goals and assists than people think, especially in the context of the total that he's had this season. But the problem is, for me, I think that other people have become important when before it was just Bukayo Saka that did everything for us. And that feeling of just do everything for us, you're not doing everything. We sit there, we say, oh my God, does that mean there's a decline? Does that mean the injuries have caused that? Or is that just the team getting better? Like when teams get better, you don't look to superpowers of individuals, right? When you look at down, anything below the top 10 teams in the league, right? You define a team by one or two players, don't you? Because the whole team is quite poor. But as you get better, as you get more complete, your star players lose their influence unless you are a Liverpool who define their success on individuals, right? And so it just depends. But I would say, broadly speaking, the better a team gets, the less individualistic it gets because the levels around them get better. That's what I would say is a broad rule. But yeah, I'd love to know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's had more goals and assists than people think since October 1st.
So in terms of, so if we're taking off that Olympiacos game on October the 1st, he came on and he scored a goal in that game. He also scored, I hate the phrase blanked, but he didn't get a goal or assist against Let's Go, but in the next two Champions League games, he scored a goal against Slavia Prague in the 3-0 win and got an assist against Bayern Munich. He also scored in the international break for England against Wales. City was the game he came back into. That was sort of the back end of his injury before the international break. So let's count it from the Newcastle game. So there's nothing in the Newcastle game. And he scored against West Ham. Then he had 3 games, but one of which against Fulham. I've seen the comps. I didn't see the game, but I saw the comps and he was fantastic. Crystal Palace and then Burnley. He then scored against Sunderland, didn't get a goal or assist against Tottenham, and he assisted against Chelsea. And then he also had the 4th round of the EFL Cup where he scored as well. So when you put it like that, there's basically a 3-match run. And this is
where
the thing.
Didn't score, right?
Yeah. So and this is the thing is, I'm trying to sort of do a number of things. I'm trying to take, work out where the valid criticism is, work out what's going on for him, work out what the team dynamics are, work out, are there concerns? Rohan, I think for me, I have basically about 1%, 2% of a sort of, okay, let's see. Like, I'm excited, but because it's Bukayo Saka, I'm sure it's going to be okay. Is there anything for you?
Nah, nothing. No. I think sometimes Saka's had these moments in which, because I think the expectations are so high for him, he goes through a spell in which he doesn't meet the expectation, and therefore you start to worry. It's the same as Saliba, right? William Saliba has set an incredible level of consistency season in, season out, but then you start to over-index on some of the mistakes that he has made in isolated moments. Like against Real Madrid, he made that mistake at the Bernabeu. Nobody can sit there and tell me William Saliba was not outstanding in those 2 games. He made a mistake, but then that becomes over-indexed because of the expectation. I think it's the same with Saka as well. And I think the point about the team getting better, we're talking about the left-hand side, in which for me has been the best at it in terms of functioning on the ball since 22-23. That season. And then you look at...
I don't know which season you're referring to.
And then you look at also the way that we're also manufacturing situations for Eze as well. We're having a lot more to our game, And to add on to the Saka discussion, right? Against Sunderland get that goal back, right, to equalise. Who puts it on a plate for Calafiori and then Mikel Merino to potentially convert? Who puts it on a plate for Mikel Merino twice against Bayern Munich? So like, I hear the argument in which, maybe we need to see a little bit more performance-wise over 90 minutes. That's fair. But it's not something to worry about because he's producing the magic. I would be worried about if Saka was not producing the magic consistently over a stretch of games. So and the Fulham game, I can tell you now, it was incredible. He was
best match
outrageous.
this season.
Yeah, it was outrageous. So yeah, I think there's nothing to worry about of it personally. Maybe that's not great analysis, but
no, but I think he's reached the Mbappe, Vinny. He's going to be judged by GA. So when you're seeing criticism, I don't just want to immediately go no.
Yeah.
We have to be fair. He's 25 or so. I think when you look into it, though, I think it really is just a case of basically people looking at some numbers.
Maybe it's also about, before his injury last season, he was hitting unprecedented numbers as well. It's like every single game, Midas touch, every single moment, even in his poor games, in moments like I remember Newcastle away from home last season, in which we were awful and losing 1-0. He puts it on a plate for Declan Rice in like the last couple of minutes. So,
but also, guys, and can you guys help me with this? Because again, I don't want to speak without the facts. I swear, if you look at Bukayo Saka's output over each season, a larger percentage and proportion come in the second half of a season. Even when you go to 22-23 in your favorite season, I swear there was discussions about Saka not performing the best between September and November, and then at the turn of the year, count the percentage of goals that he's got. There is a thing to this where, if anything, I feel the goals and assists come later for Saka.
That's interesting.
Quite consistently.
I actually feel the opposite, personally. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. I feel like in the first half of the season, and that's not to, like, past performance is not going to indicate future results, right? I feel Saka, like, in terms of pure output, his numbers are really strong in like the first half. I could be wrong, first half, and then the second half, they're not as strong, but the performances don't dip. Yeah.
I would say, I've just had a look at his numbers in 22-23 and 23-24. He's good when the team's good. So beginning in 22-23, he was cooking. End of 23-24, he was cooking. And the beginning of, because we were pretty good at the beginning of last season. I know we had the Brighton game and the City game and stuff, but we were pretty good up to that Bournemouth game, and then things started falling apart. And he was cooking at that point. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I think realistically, he's just being asked. He's not being asked to absolutely run Arsenal Football Club, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. Do you know what I mean? And I quite enjoy that.
It's
I
kind
like
of
that we have the players,
isn't it? It's like, okay, let's funnel everything through Saka, and let's let him hit 1 billion goals and assists, but then start to worry about other aspects of our game. Yeah. Or we reduce the burden and the body of work, and then his outputs diminishes slightly. But
I mean, the most recent champions define themselves in a one-man team. So there is a little bit, in my opinion, of that carryover. To be champions, do you have to become and emulate the recent champions in terms of how they did it? Not necessarily. I definitely feel broadly, though, the team getting better means that Saka's importance or requirement to be the guy that constantly makes a difference won't be the case. And the whole idea about recruiting an Eze was also to add chance, no? It was also to add doubt to the opposition in terms of having multiple people to worry about.
Another superstar, wasn't it?
Yeah, so to do that, that means Saka, dude, you're not going to get all of the chances, and that's a good thing. That's what we wanted.
Yep. We're coming on to the questions. So thank you all so much for joining us on the Cannon Podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. We give priority to our Discord members, and you can become a Discord member by signing up as a patron or a YouTube member on the Cannon Podcast, you lucky people. A couple of questions, as I said, about Saka on the Discord. Let me go to... Let's do this one from Bear. How do you perceive Mikel navigating Odegaard's return using Eze and Ethan with him? Go on, Rohan. Have fun.
I think it's the classic politician answer. I think what you will see is Eze will move to the left-hand side, and you will see Odegaard play a lot more at right central midfield. I really do think that's going to be the case. And yeah,
with Trossard in this form?
But I think so. I don't think Mikel is going to rush Odegaard back into the team, but I think what will eventually happen is that transition occur in which Eze will be starting games through the left wing. And I know Trossard's been, I think this season in terms of performance-wise, strictly performances, and he's backing up with the output, Trossard has been a top 3 left winger in the league this season. And I don't think you could say that in any other moment since Trossard has arrived at the club when we're talking about performances, not output. But I think Eze, when we're talking about where the team can hit a higher level collectively, I think it would be with Eze at left wing over Trossard. But what's going to be interesting, right, is we're talking about those situations that we've manufactured on the edge of the box or just inside the box. How we do that with Eze on the left wing might be slightly more difficult. And then you're going to start to ask questions where, okay, if we can't get him into these spaces time and time again, how else are we going to be able to maximise him in that role to allow him to produce magic moments? Because Trossard, has produced magic moments, but he's produced magic in areas that are very low expected goals. Like the Sunderland goal, it's a screamer, isn't it? As good as Eze is, I'm not expecting Eze to score a banger from there consistently.
He's great outside the box, Eze too.
Yeah, but it's kind of like top of the box. Those are still difficult chances, but they're not difficult for Eze, consistently. Whereas an Eze shot from where Trossard took it against Sunderland, that's hard for anybody to consistently replicate. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I do think your point about where does his team take a step up? I think for what Trossard does and the role he has at the minute, I can see Eze interpreting that in a different way. Give him a run of 10 games, and I think if we could see something at least similar to Trossard, and then maybe some other levels as well there. It's also about the connections you form. What does Calafiori become with an Eze on the left-hand side? Because Calafiori so far this season has been unbelievable. But I think with an even more talented potentially, it's hard with Trossard because ultimately he's putting out the output, isn't he? Yeah. And he's delivering the bigger moments. But I think even he would say Eberechi Eze is a more talented footballer, just like pure metrics, than Trossard. He may not be as an effective footballer right now, but sort of 10 games down the line, I wonder, or even 15 games down the line. I also think maybe we miss this out of the Saka thing. I do think Odegaard's in our best team. And I think part of that is getting the best out of Saka. I think he probably hasn't been as well platformed without Odegaard in the team because of the spaces that Eze wants to occupy. So yeah, I do think our kind of final form best team, certainly right now, is something like Calafiori on the left, Eze, Saka on the right with Odegaard and Timber on the right. George?
Yeah, I think broadly, I don't know if it was the instant reaction, but I think I remember saying the best Arsenal team with the best Arsenal players are Eze and Odegaard. The most informed player will ask questions, right? And it's a manager's job to decide on theory of the best versus who's playing the best. Yeah. And that's something that they're going to dictate in the moment. I will say the easy solution is just have Trossard play until February and then swap with Eze, who becomes the best player in the league at that point. You could have that logic, but really, these are all good problems and not at the expense of trying to add an entire new section. I think there's going to have to be a Calafiori discussion at some point. What he's done this season, you look at some of the stats from the game, what he's been able to give, and we talk about the left-hand side performing so well, and yes, Trossard has done brilliant with his output, but I just think Calafiori's form and the way he's interpreted the left-back position for this Arsenal team is unique, and it's had an incredible impact on our ability to dominate down the left-hand side, where I've always felt Trossard has been clinical. Trossard has always shown an ability to be clinical. But the way that left-hand side has actually had more dominance on the ball, has actually been able to have a greater proportion of attacks because of the work Calafiori has done to create space for his partners and how he's interpreted that space. That's been a really, really top evolution that we just were robbed of last year, weren't we?
Yeah. The sweet prince, the wild horse.
My cousin.
It's so funny that I found
to
it.
come. It's subjectively funny. That's the problem. He is objectively funny sometimes.
I agree, right? I don't. I remember when that episode happened, and it was not gonna lie. I found it hilarious.
It was quite funny.
I actually thought
it was quite funny.
It doesn't bother me.
It was quite funny.
Do you know what?
That's the problem. There are. There's even, and I won't name names, but there's even people in the public eye who you just you completely disagree with everything they say, but they're quite funny.
Yeah,
it's like it's an independent skill of like, do you know what I mean? Quite good comic timing. Let's. I think we should also answer the Ethan part of that, and I'm going to use a word here. Starts with L and rhymes with moan. Is there any world, Rohan, where Ethan Waneri goes out on a loan for you in January?
Antoine.
I actually wouldn't mind that. I genuinely wouldn't mind that. I've never been against. What do you mean?
Yes, you absolutely were. We had this. We do not do this. We
What
had
do you
this
mean?
discussion. We had this discussion on a TCP live, probably September, and it's classic. I bring something up, you say no, and then 3 months later we're talking about it. You go,
Oh yeah,
I've always said that actually.
Do you know what? Right. Maybe I can't remember what I said then. Maybe I am wrong. Okay, but I actually wouldn't mind him going on loan now in January because maybe opinions do change.
No, not allowed. Not allowed.
But I think it would need to be like a loan that made sense. It needs to be a loan to a Premier League club for me. Like I wouldn't
Antoine?
be.
Little Bournemouth deal.
Little Bournemouth deal. I mean, who do they have? So they play.
Sweeten the deal.
They got Adams.
That's what I'm saying.
But who do they play? So they play Adams and Christie. Adams, Christie.
They've got like David Brooks, and they've got.
But David Brooks plays on the wing though, so
They could use with an Ethan, in my opinion. Someone in the pockets to release. I genuinely think, I love my Semenyo shout, of course, and I will do anything to make that happen. But I genuinely think that's not a bad sweetener to the deal. Especially for me, look, I think Ethan needs to play. Look, you could also ask the question of Miles, if you're really being fair, like the youngsters of last season who had their breakouts because Arsenal didn't have a squad in which they had the minutes to provide to them. Like there is an argument to say, even for my boy, like, you know, would you look at a loan for Miles? I don't take anything off the table. I'm a little bit more hesitant with Miles, more because of the back six in which I look at potential injuries to a Declan Rice and to the legs in midfield. So I'm less, oh my God, I don't know, with the Ethan, because again, guys, we have Max Dowman, who we have not seen. And I'm, afraid to speak things about that because I really think he could surprise. But you start to look at it, the lefty attacking midfielder type at Arsenal is quite plentiful, right? So
yes,
I do think that you could look at that as a logical.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because you got Eze there, you got Erdegaard. I mean, there have been, I know, not many will like it, but Mikel does like it. He will use Mikel Merino in that position again. He will do it.
Kai, when he's back fit, will drift over to that side as well.
Also,
maybe you were cooking, Alex. Maybe
if you structure the loan, I feel bad and I feel like I've mocked you. Obviously, opinions change. The reason I bring it up is really to say how things have shifted. Like, and I think realistically, we do get a little bit blinded with the Hale End kids. I think he's a fully grown man who's going to earn more money than I'll ever earn in my life. But we do get a little bit blinded. And I did feel, I remember mentioning it, not even just to you, like to a couple of people on X, I think it was. And it was like I'd said, go out the back and shoot him. It's like, no, like he just might need a loan at some point. Like it's just such a bizarre... No, just like it might be best for his development. It comes to a time when maybe that's right for him. And by the way, I think an Ethan Nwaneri loan to Bournemouth, for let's say from January, bringing in a Semenyo, I think he's like World Cup, like potentially. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that level of impact. I think he could go to Bournemouth if he gets in the team, does it properly. Southgate might be looking at him. That's the level.
But equally. But do we have space for Semenyo with Ethan going on loan?
Yes. Don't listen to him. Everyone listening, ignore the squad numbers, ignore the finances.
But we've just argued, right? We've just argued about the position, the depth there, though. No. So like
no. But yeah, I think it's got to be on the table at least.
Yeah.
Look, here, one thing I'll say too is Bournemouth is a little bit of Antoine, but also what is the biggest thing that I think Ethan needs to grow with? The press.
Yeah.
Who is one of the few managers in the league that I would trust to coach the press the best? It would be Areola.
Postecoglou.
So,
sorry. Yeah.
So I really think that that loan would be a world of good for everybody involved. And look, I do agree with you, Rohan. You'd probably have to look at like a Jesus type sale with Palmeiras, who could say, listen, go and play the World Cup minutes that you need because you're not going to get it at Arsenal as well if you have those dreams. I find, look, everything's possible with Alberta. I think he could make it work. But also for Ethan, guys, I genuinely think not only is the loan a good idea, not only is the team a good idea, I think that's the manager that could kind of eke a little bit more out of Ethan. Because I think Ariel is a brilliant manager, but one that is probably the closest in the Premier League to value the type of out-of-possession work we do. right? The closest symmetry. So I would actually start to look at that and develop a little bit more of a relationship, because we're going to have such a good squad, guys. We are. We have to start looking at teams that can replicate our style in good ways in the top 5 leagues.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do a better job of that. That's the part of squad building we've never quite been good at, not just in the academy, but even in the first team environment. Like rebuilding an asset, the Vieiras of this world, the Reece Nelsons. Like when we talk about people that are undervalued assets, how do we build it back up?
Yeah.
What kind of a way do we have to define that?
We also, I don't really know how we didn't have this discussion on the podcast at the time, or maybe I wasn't there or something, but the whole Michele thing, like he's coming in to do this sort of stuff, and if we don't make better use of the loans pathway, we may as well not sign him. Like we may as well not have him in the room.
That's exactly it.
So yeah, I think we're going to have to get used to this. By the way, Ethan for me is way beyond the Vieiras and the Smith for me personally in terms of the talent, that how highly I rate the talent. If you ask me to bet my house on where he is in 24 months compared to like a Saka and a Dowman and stuff, I'm less on it. But I absolutely believe that with the right loan, with the right development, with you just never know. Do you look at players like Elliot Anderson, right? Who obviously are talented, are coming through. I think did he come through at City, Elliot Anderson?
I think so. Yeah,
I think he did. And now
started there. Yeah,
and now Pep wants to buy it. Like you don't know how players are going to develop, so you just need them to play. And I think right now, I think there might be a conversation to be had about him. Let's go to another question from the Discord.
Oh no, it wasn't Man City. It was.
Who was it?
It was
Newcastle. No,
it was Newcastle. But before that, it was Wallsend Boys Club.
What?
That's right. I'm looking at Wikipedia. It was Wallsend Boys Club. Yes.
Wallsend. In 2010. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for that context. Looked me like last year. I was like, what?
It's just your local team, isn't it?
Yeah, more than you believe. Let's do one more from Discord. We do have a director's box phone-in coming, which you will have missed by the time this comes out. So we're going to have to wrap up relatively soon. Question on Discord from Example. He says, going back over the last 5 seasons, who are your top 5 wants that we missed out on and you are now retrospectively glad we didn't sign? Everyone will hate this opinion, and it's never stopped me in the past. I think Mudryk would have cooked for us, and I know someone's going to say Mudryk. Mudryk, if he'd come into that team in 22-23, he would have cooked. Remember his debut. Go and watch his debut. It's just all gone wrong for him.
Did he sell everybody dreams? Because that debut was absolutely nuts.
He sold me dreams.
What the heck? But with all the things that have happened off the pitch, I think that is definitely one which I am so glad we didn't do. Because he would have been banned. he would have been banned to play. So did that happen when he was at Chelsea, or was it? I'm pretty sure it was before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, was he athletics now or something? I don't know what he's doing. Anyway, who's Samoa, George?
I mean, his career kind of went off I still that's one. If you're talking about the guy that you're convinced still would have done well, it would have been a war for me, like the Mudryk thing. But the one who I'm glad, and I said I didn't want, was Tammy Abraham. Did not want that deal to go through.
On my knees.
I did not want Tammy. Did not want Tammy Abraham. And
I've got one.
Here's one that I think people will know if they've known about me for a while. I was a big fan of Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
I was just going to say that. I was literally going to say Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
I thought he could come in to that team at that point when we were struggling and do a very good job for what Mikel wanted, because it was that kind of striker that I thought was post-Aubameyang that Mikel seemed to want. And I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin could cook.
That COVID season, he sold me dreams of Ancelotti. Sold me dreams, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yeah. I was thinking, this is the next one. He's getting 25, 30 goals easy. Yeah. I genuinely thought that. I was so convinced. I'm trying to think now. There's definitely
I sometimes want to go back on like old podcasts and like we should like a reacting to like old takes and stuff. That would actually be quite funny, because some of the players that I was on my knees for, have. I think I remember having an argument about Nzonzi at one point.
Nzonzi's good.
But Nzonzi was linked.
Yeah, he was good.
You and me, George, about Smith Rowe, mate. We go back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, but Jons and
do you know what
Zonzi
though?
was good.
Do you know what though? Smith Rowe
And Zonzi was good.
Yeah.
I do think Smith Rowe's. I don't know if Fulham was the right place for him because I think I never rate him as highly as you, but I also don't think he's as bad as he's showing. Like I think there's a middle ground.
I don't think he's also just the thing that you can never account for is the mental thing, and I actually do feel, regardless of wrong moves and whatnot, he could take more charge of his career. I think with the talent that he had,
Passive as a guy, isn't he? He's a bit.
He is very passive. Yeah, and I don't know. That's one. Keto Taylor Hart from the academy was a really big one that I was just a huge fan of. Didn't work out. They're all there. If you
be some more that we're not thinking of. There has to be.
Yeah,
Keto's pretty rogue. I'm sure there was another really, really good one that was popular.
Mate, back in the day, I'd say Chuba Akpom. I was invested. I was fully invested.
So before when we beat Liverpool in the COVID season 2-1, that was on my birthday. That superseded, like in terms of one of the best moments of Arsenal on my birthday was Chuba Akpom in pre-season scored a hattie. Oh my god, what a day! It was against like Shanghai 11. It was
Shanghai 11.
I was absolutely gassed.
The famous team. Let's do a couple more questions. One, finish on the Discord from Axel. What nation that isn't obvious produces the talents that you personally love the most? Also, what are some countries that you think will explode in talents in the coming years? And I'm going to ask this to you, George, so you can say the words Ecuador and tell us about the players we're signing, please.
Oh, lovely.
It's actually Ecuador's a brilliant kind of country.
My pick is Ecuador.
Look at it. The club that we actually did
Greece,
it from in terms of IDV, Greece has some really good youngsters. Ecuador, IDV, the two youngsters that we've got, Hogar and Edwin, very good players. Very good players. You're looking at Edwin, who I think is a little bit more talented than the other twin, is more of a lefty right wing. Reminds me a little bit more of Mahrez with flair, a very, very technical. We're talking, these guys are street footballers. The invention that they get in their 1v1 take-ons is absolutely brilliant. If you go and you watch a compilation, you're just going to be wowed by the type of dribbling. And, they do the scoop passes. They just do street cage football things. Classic Jogo Bonito commercial when you look at it. But the thing is that I love about the Mahrez comparison is, Edwin's got those long legs that, he's head up in his dribble. It's not just to almost embarrass somebody, but he's got this really good understanding to bait a defender into the duel and then skip past them. He really judges that quite well. Really brilliant creative solution. And then Holgar's a little bit more of like a mini Desiree Doué, right-footed guy who plays off the left but can come inside and be an attacking midfielder. He's traditionally a 10, but he is that wing fielder, in my opinion, that does his best work coming off the left and coming inside. Really great final ball, really good understanding of tempo. But I think the two of them together, I don't know, they could be a really exciting thing because I was thinking about this. Who are other twins in world football that have made it at the top level?
The De Boer,
twins.
I saw something about this. The De Boer brothers both play for Barca.
Yes.
Fabio and Raphael, I guess.
I mean, the Bellingham brothers are doing right now, aren't they?
Decent job.
They're not twins, though.
But they're not twins. But that's probably niche.
Probably Quinton will come to the Prem.
Yeah, Urian and Quinton. Yeah, he could. They are.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yes, I'm actually very excited. The one thing I'll end on with these two is it's really nice to see Arsenal, and I don't think it's a shock that Michaelis is coming in. That this is very U18 foreign talent recruitment. Yeah. Foreign talent has not been plentiful at Arsenal. So I'm happy to see it. It's at a club I really believe in. We didn't get Ordonez that Chelsea actually got from the same club, but I am happy with these two twins because they're phenomenal. They actually destroyed us in a Flamingo Cup in a youth match. I'm such a nerd. But they destroyed us and literally it turned them onto us. Like I remember that match and they were unbelievable. They were really, really good. And I'm really happy that they're coming to us.
Yay! Right, going back to that other question, I thought of one, probably one of my worst ones. in terms of like players. I was on my knees. I'm talking on my knees, on like begging.
Yeah.
Elan Melier.
The keeper.
The goalkeeper.
Yeah.
My God. I got cooked for it at the time, and rightly so. That guy sucks.
No, but mate, I wanted him as a Leno replacement. 100%. I was fully in on that. I was fully in.
Do you guys
on
remember Albin Lafont as well?
Yeah. He was
Around
always
that
a pick
time?
for me on FIFA.
From Toulouse? Yeah.
The thing, do you know what it was, Alex? I reckon maybe you're feeling the same with me, where we played Leeds in the Cup. It was Arteta's when Arteta came in midway.
Yeah.
And Melier was popping it around everywhere. I thought, what the heck? I've never seen anything like this.
It's because we were so bad that we think that the player at that level is good.
Oh, man.
Right, we'll do one last question, and we'll leave it there because we have to pop off to do another record. Matteo on the lovely, beautiful website. Do you all think Joan Garcia should have been bought? I love a little cat amongst the pigeons. Last question. Rohan, I'm going to ask you that question.
Oh, tell you what, the Juan Garcia haters, though, were feasting potentially at one of the mistakes he made against Chelsea. It was offside, but he just let it through his legs. Do
you know, there's people who I don't understand. Yeah. I think it's quite like, I think the sort of the slander name thing is quite funny. But there's people who are like really into like hater central and things like that. I'm like,
it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Such a sad way. Like, it's like occasionally funny. Yeah. But there's people who are like super into it. I'm like, do you know how sad must your life be?
Do you know what? And it would never be a podcast episode without talking about Victor Gyökeres. It's kind of like Victor Gyökeres and Kai Havertz standards.
Right at
the end. Do you know what I mean? So right. I'm telling you now, go on Twitter after Victor Gyökeres or Kai Havertz has a game. It doesn't matter how they play. There will be one section. If Havertz has a bad game, the Gyökeres Stan Club will be on his case. If Gyökeres has a bad game, then the Havertz Stan Club will be on his case. And it's like so toxic, and it's just weird. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've genuinely reached a great place with it. Well, I actually don't care. Someone DM'd me today to say sorry for something they said. I didn't even know it was happening. I was getting cooked. Apparently, I don't even look anymore. It's great stuff.
That's when you know you're at peace on social media.
I'm at peace.
Like I'm genuinely
answer the question.
I don't know. I think. Okay, I'm going to throw this back at you because I don't know. Right? How do you feel about having two keepers? Right? Because David Raya is still young in goalkeeping years for me. And he still has years to go. How do you feel about having two top level goalkeepers, and how do you manage that workload? Because I have never personally felt you can keep them both happy.
Being fully serious, I said this in the summer.
Yeah.
Even if Joan Garcia is better than David Raya, which I'm not like fully on board. I need to watch more. I need to see him in an Arsenal shirt. Like I've seen comps, I've watched him play and stuff like that, but I'm still not like convinced. He might be. I don't know. Even if he is. That's not the problem for Arsenal. We don't win the league based off upgrading David Raya, and also David Raya is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. It's like a touch. It's like a little step up. You might win, I don't know, one more point a season, right?
Yeah.
That isn't worth disrupting the goalkeeping group right now. It isn't, and there's a time sometimes to do things, and I wonder whether maybe not pushing for it was like, yeah, maybe we get a touch better. But I remember just thinking like, is that worth the disruption? Because you also can't account for things like chemistry. You don't know if he comes in and I don't know. Gabriel hates him. Who knows? Like you can't know that. Yeah. So it's too much of a risk for me. And I'm even if you were convinced on the talent, it's not the right time to do it. That's my feeling.
It's like the margins to win the Premier League in terms of where Arsenal have fallen short. It's not down on the goalkeeper. So it's like.
He's one of the best
when you look
in the world.
When you look at like Aaron Ramsdale, for example, you could make a case in which, if we are able to make that next step up, do we believe we can add more layers to that position? And Arteta's felt we could do, and it's been vindicated. So yeah,
this is how we can actually decide it. Should Arsenal go after Jeremy Jacquet, the young centre back, when you've got William Saliba and Mascara and X? Yeah. I can't hide. I really like the talent. And I do think the one thing I really agree with you guys on is kind of what's the level change difference? You're talking about a couple percent because David Raya is already a top 3 goalkeeper in the world. The thing is, if Juan Garcia, even if he was better than David Raya, do we get Hincapié? No, we don't, in my opinion. And look at the impact that Hincapié's had on us already this season in terms of what he's provided and what he's still yet to provide. I just think, like you guys have said more eloquently, there are other skills in this squad that we needed more of. And whilst even if he was better, for argument's sake, we still have the skills that David Raya is brilliant at, that Juan Garcia would have just done maybe to a little bit better level and not get chipped. So Alex would have wanted it.
And that is the biggest problem in this team.
Have that one, Alex.
The chipping is the most important problem.
It's the most like we're in a good run. I don't know what to talk about. Is he getting chipped too much? Got to come up with something. Look, we've got to finish there because we have another record in a second. But thank you all for your questions. As always, you can get priority access to those on Discord. If you want to join us on our monthly Director's Box phone-ins, you can do so by becoming a director, where you also get access to, you get your name at the end of the episode, you get voting rights on Scouted and other things on the podcast. You get access to a new feature, which is called Challenge the Host, where you can pick out one of our horrendous takes on the podcast and dress us down for it. You get other stuff as well. I can't remember, but you get loads of stuff, and you get access to all the other stuff that people on the previous thing, the North Bank. I'm doing really well here, really well. The North Bank get, like ad-free episodes and access to the rewatch and Scouted and all those good things. Good. I'm very unwell. Thank you so much, Rohan.
Nice one, but what about predictions, really quickly? Brentford.
5-0.
Yeah, 10-0. Done.
2-0.
Decent.
I was trying to swallow a pill, but it's too hot. That's disgusting. Thank you so much for watching. And thanks for keeping it Arsenal. I'm so sorry.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed. Electrifying. Electrifying. Inspiration.